All right. Well, welcome, Tina. Thanks for coming along. So I'm hoping you'll get some learning out of this. So what we're going to do, I'll just tell you what the structure is. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how wounds heal. All right. We're going to look at a few different types of exudate. You know, all the fluid that comes out of the wound, so you can understand the difference between what's what and what it means. We're going to look at the difference between vascular and arterial wounds, those two differences. And also how we're going to manage acute wound versus a chronic wound. We get a lot of mostly chronic wounds here, but occasionally you'll get, when I say acute, I mean someone just gets hit big, and you'll have to deal with that straight away, right? I'll show you a few of the dressings that we have, and that's all you have to choose from. So I've ordered particularly to cover either high exudate wounds or low exudate wounds, and that really will keep it quite simple. You do not need complex dressings to do good wound healing. Alright, there's all sorts of varieties you'll have access to, but at the end of the day, the majority of healing takes place within the person, alright, within how healthy they are, how good their vascular system is, their general immune system, their diet, there's a whole lot of other contributing factors as to why wounds heal and why they don't. Dressings really are only a small part of it, but if we don't manage it well, we can end up making it worse. But it's the individual that needs to heal it. So we'll look a bit about infection control, as in using good infection control, so you're not cross-contaminating when you're going from one person to another one wound, and then that you're not causing infection or infecting the wound itself. So there's quite a bit of theory here, but when we're finished, what we'll do is we'll cement it all by going out and actually healing the wound, right? Just to bring it all together, and we'll continue to do that until you're feeling confident, and we can do them every day as long as we have to, and we'll see all sorts of different types, so you get a general picture of what you're likely to see out there, right? So I'm hoping by the end of it you're going to be feeling a lot more confident, alright, just to manage your wounds here. And there aren't too many at the moment. We've actually, a big one that's just recently left, as you know, Roger, so things are looking pretty good around here at the moment. John's probably your most complex wound. And I just want to talk quickly about John, because you just saw it. John, I've got John's history here. I just wanted to, so normally when you start a wound, alright, when you go into a wound, you want to know about the wound. You want to know about this person and why do they have this wound. What's a bit of the background behind it? What's their medical history? What are we currently using on this wound? So look at the care plan, look at the wound care plan, and see what the previous person's been doing. Now, when you go to look at the wound on that day and you're thinking this is no longer appropriate, this wound is either in a different situation, it's either gotten better or worse, and you might change the plan. You might say this is no longer appropriate, I'm going to change it, in which case you have the right to do that, and you'll just change your care plan. So every nurse knows why you've done it, and then they know to follow the same regime until it requires another change. Right? Yeah, either you need to give some reason, as in the wound is now healed, we no longer, it's nice and moist, we no longer need to add more moisture to it, so whatever your reason might be, and you just, and if you're not sure, you can always ask for me, the clinical nurse, to support your change, and I'm sure that she'll be happy to, if she can see merit in what you're saying.
Do we take the photo of the wound?
Yeah, we usually do.
Yeah.
Not necessarily every time, because you might change your wound 3 times a week or every day. So no, we don't do it. We only do a photo minimum of 1 a week. Sometimes once a fortnight, depending on the week. If it's a chronic wound and it's hanging around and around, of course we don't need as many photos. But if you've got a rapidly changing wound, we want to capture that change. And a photo is a good way to do it. I also like a photo because you can send it to the GP who doesn't visit very often. You can say, look, this is what it looks like, and they can see with their own eyes, still filming, what it looks like. So John, just let's talk a little bit about his history, because the fellow you just saw, he's got that contracted muscle. You see that leg that was, so he basically, all those arteries, the main artery behind there, popliteal I think it is from memory, is all been cramped up. and which means the veins, all the vessels, all the blood supply is all limited because of this contracture. He's also had a CVA, he's got a history of hypertension, so I'm guessing his vascular system is not very good. He's not getting the supply of nutrients and the backflow of all the junk come back into the system to be dispensed of. So it's failing, and you can see by that, when you see all that pus that come out of that wound, he's got an underlying infection in there, so it's not going to heal. That layering of wound healing. Did you read that pre-reading
Yes,
I gave you?
Yep.
So just refreshing on this, it's really these are bleeding. We sort of discount. We assume it's going to bleed, but these are your main three processes of wound healing.
Yep.
So that all these phases will be interrupted if there's an infection. It's not going to go through its normal process. So your inflammation. That's when all your blood clots and all the platelets and everything come together to get all the right ingredients to start filling in that hole, right? So it's like a sand pit. You know how the sand goes straight to the bottom and then it fills up to the top? Well, that's what the cells are trying to do. So they start from the bottom and they start filling in layer by layer to make it rise to the surface of the skin so it's flat. So these three processes take place. This is a much longer term process. This can take years for that skin. If it's a really bad wound, the scar tissue, for that to completely be strong and go back to normal. These two happen a little bit faster this will happen over a couple of days, and that when it's really bleeding and sore and you've got inflammation, it's often the most painful part of it. And then you start getting all those nice cells working together, knitting together and forming the layers that make up our skin, So,
but this one is the final phase of
this is the final phase, the final phase. And like a bone, if you break a bone, it takes quite a few weeks for it to heal. And although that actual remodelling starts and you start seeing improvements within weeks, the full strength of that bone won't return for several months, if not years after that, by the time it completely goes through all its processes to get to that strength again. So that's the normal process of whenever you get a cut or anything. That's what the stages will be. All right, you can go into more depth on that if you want to. There's certainly a lot to understand within each process. Lots of pathophysiology and all that interesting stuff. So.
Chronic wound will stop here. They stop here before
Yeah,
you progress to it.
that's right. The inflammation process will occur usually at that time of first injury. However, if you've got a chronic wound that won't heal, sometimes if it breaks down, it will go through more and other inflammation processes. It tries to keep rebuilding, and it'll be sort of through a secondary phase of healing. So not the primary phase where it's just first, second and third. It'll go through continuous inflammation, breakdown and inflammation because it's just for all those different reasons that I'll talk about, the body is just not able to heal it. Usually it's infection that's underlying it, or there is some sort of vascular problem that's not allowing enough oxygen and nutrient to the surface of the skin. So it's quite a complicated, a very interesting process. If you do get a chance to explore and research all those phases, you will start understanding things at a real cellular level, which is, for me, very fascinating. So I don't know how you feel about that, but it's up to you how deep you want to go. You don't have to go that deep. At the end of the day, all you're doing is dressing. But I like to understand why I'm doing it and what's happening in that process, because otherwise I don't find it satisfying like that. Alright, so let's look at what factors might stop healing or delay healing, let's say. Still getting that? Yep. Alright, so I've just listed, and I think I sent that to you. So malnutrition is a big one, alright? You're not getting the supply of proteins and carbohydrates and all those fatty acids and things that you need for wound healing to take place. Reduced blood supply, as in John's case. So you've got usually cardiovascular problems starting from the heart and going all the way through the network of veins. There is some constriction. There might be like fatty deposits, atherosclerosis and all that. make the vein very small and things. You don't get that pump and that flow, and of course limited nutrients and oxygen. So that's all affecting every single process in your body. Medication, all those drugs, you know, all those steroid drugs that we use, any of the cortisone creams, any of your asthma puffers, they're all basically steroids, and they interfere with that inflammatory process, which is actually a natural process. You want that to occur. Without that, you won't get the wound healing. So they actually slow that down. So people who are on long-term steroids, or your asthmatics, people for various reasons using cortisone cream for rashes or anything like that, they will suffer when they get a wound. The wound won't heal properly, as you see it.
So do they still, if they have that wound, can they still take it, the steroid, or just use the
It depends how bad the problem is. For an asthmatic, for example, it's very hard to cease that kind of medication, because if you do, they'll end up with shortness of breath, and then you've got another problem. So usually that'll be the doctor's call whether he wants to reduce the drug during that phase, you know, of healing. So that's definitely a possibility. Chemotherapy, obviously radiotherapy, is all interfering with cellular activity, so you're not going to get the healing during those as well as you would normally. Puts a great stress on the immune system. Any sort of psychological stress. You will notice, and you'll get this through your learning by just years of watching, is anyone who is depressed in mood, anyone who has trouble sleeping, their wounds won't heal as quick. It suppresses the immune system. Mind controlling body, you know, so often the people who are depressed, which is a lot of people here, you'll see a compromised immune system. With whatever happens to them, they will not heal as well. They won't recover as well from sickness. They spend longer down than they do up.
And if it's depressed, they want to eat other food, so that they eat too much nutrition.
Exactly, it's all linked, isn't it? When you're depressed, you're not eating, you're not sleeping, everything starts to go downhill. Infection is an obvious one. If you've got an infection in your body, or an infection in the wound itself, it's going to stop all those processes that we talked about. It'll interfere with the normal 3-phase process of wound healing. So we always address infection. Usually the moment someone gets a wound or cut or something, you'll notice the doctors put them straight on antibiotics.
Yes.
They'll reduce the risk of them getting infected and then getting another problem with the wound. Wound temperature. Now the wound itself needs to be, the body temperature. If you start adding cold solutions to your wounds, the little vessels will constrict and freeze up. They don't like it. They want to be warm, just like their body. So when you're doing your dressing, it doesn't hurt if you pull your saline and stuff out of the mature areas. You can put it in your little dressing pack and let it sit for a while, so just that it's not cold. Or the little bottles, you can just put in your hand for a little while. Just carry it in your hand for a while so that it's warmed by your body temperature, so you're not putting cold things on the wound. And if they're sitting in air conditioning, that will freeze their body down. So bodies function better when they're at their optimal temperature, which is 36.9 to 37.1 is the range. So if you're freezing up, especially older people, the cold, they don't respond well to cold at all. So warm is much better.
When we touch the wound, we can feel it's warm, but because we don't have anything to thermometer to test the temperature, so we use a sensation.
Yeah, they should be able to feel, they might be able to give you some feedback themselves, but it's more, the wound will stay at normal body temperature unless you do something to change it. The body temperature stays at that flat rate the whole time. It's only you adding cold water that's going to be the problem. So, alright, so to underlying diseases, your classic is diabetes, alright. Most diabetics will not really heal well at all. Alright, so in a nutshell, the reason why diabetics don't heal well is because that sugar is elevated in their blood system. it stiffens the arteries, all right, and it causes narrowing of all the vessels, all right. It's like sticky cells. You don't get that nice flow going. So all those far-reaching places like down to your toes and your ankles, all the veins start getting smaller and smaller, and you don't get the oxygen supplying nutrients, just like I said before. So they're compromised. Do you know much about the lymphatic system? It's connected to the main central vascular system, your cardiac system, and it's little. It's all through the surface of your skin or your lymphatic system. It's the main stuff. It's what's carried. That carries it to the main blood supply. So all these little tiny venules come right to the skin. That's your lymphatic system, and the lymphatic system takes it all back into the vessels, the arteries and the veins, and carries it back through the circulation system. So when you've got compromised vessels, they're narrowing vessels, and you've got someone sitting there for long periods of time without moving, like John Pace, he can't move that leg, which means the lymphatic works on pressure, so it works on deep breathing and movement, and that helps it pump back into the main system. If you don't have movement, if you're just sitting there all day long or standing in the mark, they're not getting that pump, they're not getting rid of all the toxins back into the system to be dispersed of, to come out of your poo and your respiration, all that sort of thing. So it stays contained down in the skin. You see, look at skin sometimes all red. It's not nice and healthy looking colour. It's all bad colour. It's the little vessels are no longer, they're all closed off. The valves aren't working. The blood's not going forward and coming back again. It's just staying there, not being able to be transported back. So you end up with all that really bad skin tone and colour.
For the deep breath, do we ask him to do it before we
He can. Deep breathing is a really great way of improving lymphatic drainage. There's a little lymph nodes all over your body, little collection chambers of all the toxins in your body, and it requires the pump to make it circulate. So yeah, deep breathing or movement exercise is the only way you can do it. And good hydration, plenty of water, so you've got more volume there, that's circulating volume.
Movement like 2 hours, 30 is included in the movement?
Yeah, any movement at all, even if someone does it for you. You pick up a leg and you're still getting that heart. A lymphatic massage, see people massaging legs.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to do, stimulate the lymphatic system. So all those yucky bits go back into the big vessels, the arteries and the veins, and then they get transported back into the system where we get rid of it all, right? We either breathe it out, we poo it out, we sweat it out, and that's how we maintain a clean body. That's always recycling itself. So with the diabetic in particular, poor circulation, the nerves are damaged, all right? So they can't feel often. So they could bang it, they could put it on something hot, something cold, they wouldn't know any different because they can't feel. The nerves are not working anymore. Again, they've got no supply down there, so that's a problem in itself. And their immune system is compromised, and often they'll get infections. So this is all slowing them down. That's particularly relates to diabetes, all right? But it can relate to others too. So what's the difference between venous and arterial? Ulcers. Do you want to comment on that? Do you know what the difference is? Did you have a read? Did you read anything?
Arterial also is like kind of punch out appearance.
Yeah, that's right.
That's like I noticed the venous, if we're accompanied with the veins, very cool veins.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean like they both have bunch. It's kind of bunch of it.
Similar, aren't they? Yeah, well, because you might have both involvement. You might have the arteries and the veins both involved, which is why you will get wounds that do take on that appearance of being punched out, as well as scattered. That might be actually an example there of one. This one's more clearly just, yeah.
So
I think position, you mainly get your arterial ones on the foot and the toes, alright? And they're very defined. So that's a really clear circle, and that was a very clear, punched out appearance. These are more flat and scattered and all over the shop, and usually always lower leg, You always see the venous ulcers on the lower leg.
For arterial, usually they have a hole in it, so it's easy to.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's generally can be more serious. So the venous ones can appear anywhere between the knee and the ankle. Different sizes, different shapes, a bit more rougher around the edges. Pain maybe not as pain. Usually arterials are more painful.
So we will give the pain relief.
I think it's kinder to give someone pain relief prior to a dressing change. If it's a nasty wound, you know that they will suffer pain. Definitely, it's the first thing you do. Half an hour before you're going to do it, so you've got plenty of time to absorb it. The arterial ones are found on the tips of the toes, and any other places where there's pressure or trauma. So in our pressure area cares, you can it starts off as just a little red area and it can turn into a massive ulcer if left unattended.
This one, we can bandage it, we put a dressing on
We would, yeah, we would. When you've got arterial, you're not supposed to use compression. It makes it worse.
Yes.
It makes it worse because you've got really limiting supply altogether. So when you've got both venous and arterial together, you will just avoid using compression. You will just dress it, as you say, I'll be wanting to keep that nice and moist, with a bit of moisture, and you probably need foam on that because it's going to exudate a lot. There's going to be a lot of stuff come out of it, so you want to contain all that.
But then if it exudates a lot, then will it get infection? Because
the infection's always at risk. If you control the amount of discharge though, and you don't let it seep all over the shop, you can at least contain it to that area. The infection will come if you use your good hygiene practices. There's no reason you need to introduce infection. But remember, bacteria is on the skin all the time. You and I have got bacteria on our skin now. Everyone does. The only reason it becomes a problem is to say you've got a cut and that bacteria and your immune system is down, that bacteria will then start to run amok. Most of us, few bacteria, we can handle it. The body will just go straight into a response. It will eat away all the bad bacteria and it will solve it. Older people don't have that luxury. They don't have the immune response to fight off little bacteria, so they generally get infections in their wounds for that reason. It's not necessarily anything they're doing. It's just that they don't have they don't have the ability to fight off like you do when you're young.
But then if this one has a hole in it, so it will never heal.
No, it's that way. That's necrotic, so that's black. You would need to debride that. You have to get rid of that dead tissue. Is just stopping all good tissue from. It's got nowhere else to go. You would have to cut that off. Looking at that, to me, that whole area is going to have to be amputated because it's so bad. But often debrided wounds, and I'll give you a positive story about debriding nasty wounds like that. We had a wound in here when I first came in here. Alan was his name. He's now since passed away, but not because of this. That was his wound, alright? That was the pressure injury wound on his heel. See that black tissue? That's all dead. That's necrotic tissue. Now, if I did nothing with that, then I just left it alone, I didn't touch it, he would end up septic. The toxins would break down, they would enter his blood system, and he would end up with septicemia, and he'd die, probably. So what we did is we softened it over several weeks using a gel, like Solucite or any of those gels, they're all the same. We softened it over many weeks, soften it. We kept it off, pressure off it. We elevated it so it was not resting on anything, didn't touch anything. We had a booty on it, we had a pillow under his leg, so it was always up, right? Every day we softened it. The doctor came in, debrided it. She put a local in to numb the pain, took all that dead tissue off. There was all this red, big exposed bit of red granulating tissue underneath. We dressed it every day for weeks and weeks and weeks, and eventually it healed completely. And the foot went back to normal. The good thing about Alan is that he had no underlying problems. He wasn't a diabetic, he was otherwise a healthy man, so that probably helped. It was a big part of why it healed so well. Normally you'd end up amputating that because they just wouldn't have the power to heal. But he had some beautiful fresh new tissue come through. Once we got rid of that, the new tissue just kept going through this process, remodel itself entirely. So it was a real success story. So So it can happen. You do get success stories here. It doesn't always end in doom and gloom. It depends on a whole lot of factors. All right, so where are we now? So exudate, different types of exudate. I want to talk a bit about that because you'll see all sorts. So here's some sort of definitions of the words you'll see. Serous fluid, that's that thin watery fluid in your blood. All right, it's the clear, you know when you do a test tube and you spin blood and it separates, and you've got yellow on top and you've got the red blood on the bottom. Well, part of that part is the serous fluid. All right, it contains all your white cells and proteins and all the little things in there, all the good bits in there as well. So that's the serous fluid. So you'll get that. You'll see that a lot coming out of your wounds. It's a clear fluid that you'll see. Sometimes it's got blood in it. So hemoserous. That's exactly right. Yeah, that just means you've got hemo, blood, serous fluid. So you join the two words together. That's right. Usually, it's because there's an infection under there. It squeezes the vessel and forces all that the separation to happen. So you see the white fluid coming out of the red blood cells, and then you'll see the clear fluid. So it's usually infection behind it, and it pushes it out up to the surface. So that's why you'll see all that clear fluid coming out. But often it's got blood mixed with it, definitely. Fibrinous, you won't see that so much, but it's all your fibrin protein strands, so that it's a thin and a bit of a cloudy colour. Serous, clear pink, thin, watery fluid, which is normal, alright? That's just part of the red blood cell fluid. Sanguineous, it's red, that's like full-on bleeding, yeah. Seropurulent, what do you reckon that means, given that those two sort of words together? We look at purulent, that's infection basically. It's usually smelly too. Yellow, grey or green fluid you'll see. Alright, this means it's infected. Bacteria have got colour. Like the classic one is Pseudomonas. It's got a green colour to it. It's the bacteria. It's the colour of the bacteria in it that's coming out. So hemopurulent's got blood as well as the purulent in it. And hemorrhagic, I'm assuming that's fetal breakdown, bleeding. So it's hemo being bleeding. So overbleeding. The capillaries get fragile and they break down easily. So I've said here the exudate is a fluid with a high content of protein and cellular debris that's escaped from the blood vessels and it's been deposited in tissues or tissue surfaces, usually the result of inflammation.
But like exudate, it maintains hormones.
Yeah, it's natural and it's normal and it's good. The normal amount of exudate, don't think of it as a dirty word, it's not. It's absolutely essential because that's right, the wound wants to stay moist. If the wound is not moist, it will not heal. If you look at the inside of the body, it is moist, isn't it? Naturally, it needs that moisture for all the cells to swim and to move and to do all they have to do. So, look, at the end of the day, if you learn nothing more from today and take away that two main things: if the wound is dry, moisten it. If the wound is too wet, dry it. You want to keep the balance. It's all about maintaining that balance between wet and dry. Alright, and that's what you'll have in your mind every time you do a dressing. Have a look at it. Is that really wet? Is it sopping wet, seeping a lot? You know that it's too wet. You need to put a nice big fat foam on it, something that's going to absorb all that extra fluid. But if it's really dry, like you're like in a scab, you know, you get scab, if it's too dry, that's not good wound. People think if they've got a scab, it means their body's healed. In fact, their body is not healing the way it should be. You shouldn't end up with a scab. You should end up with an even, if the healing's done right, you should end up with an even layering that goes right to the surface and then that's it. And then it remolds back into the skin. But a scab is a form of hypergranulation. It's granulating too much, and so it's left a big bump on your skin. Right? So people think it's healthy, but it's not.
But if it's too dry, then you use a gel on it?
Yeah, any of your gels are all your moisturisers. Any of the gels, they're all just made up. They're called different names, but they're all made of the same neutral sort of solution that just keeps it sitting there in a gel that's not offensive and not damaging to the cells. I've said hypergranulation, definition of hypergranulation is extended inflammation response. It's a secondary healing instead of the primary. So it just means there's too much granulating tissue going on and it's staying in this phase for too long, right? And it's not going to the next phase and doing what it's doing. So you end up with this big bubble over the skin like you saw with John. Remember I said it's all lumpy over on top of the skin? He's got a whole lot of problems there, but that's one of them. It's just not, it's just too much granulation there and not enough other processes. And he's got a dreadful infection under it, so nothing's going anywhere.
You stop in inflammatory.
He seems to be continuing to go through that cycle and not get to the next cycle. That's right. So it's just breaking down. It's inflamed. It's bleeding, and then we wipe it, and you disrupt it again, and then it just keeps going out through the phase, and it's not getting enough time to get those nice healthy cells going. All right. I just want to make sure we covered everything. So now you tell me. Is there anything that you'd like to, because I've done a lot of talking, I'm aware of that, I just want you to have some time to, let me just go over those questions again. So 3 phases of wound healing, what have you, I'll get that to help you out, I'll get that, can you remember the phases again?
Inflammatory phase,
Yep.
proliferative phase, and
Yeah.
maturation.
That's it. Now what should you do with good infection control while you're doing your wounds? Tell me some of the things you're going to do to make sure you're clean and not passing on germs.
Aseptic technique, so always doing the washings, doing the trolley,
Yep.
wound management.
Yep. Alright, good. So, yep, washing hands is a key thing. Alright, so if you go to a wound and it's got lots of that's really wet, what would you use on it?
Hydrofiber and foam.
Yep.
Foam.
Yep.
Ostomy bags.
Yeah, you can do that if there's enough, that's right, and do it that way. We're trying to avoid the breakdown of the skin around it. If you start letting a wound stay too wet for too long, the wound will go from that into this, because it will start eating away at all the tissue around it. The wetness will just decay the flesh, and you'll end up with a much bigger wound.
If it's too wet, would that be maceration?
Yeah, so when you get all that white, you know when you're sitting in a bath and your hands go white,
Yes.
that's kind of maceration, but it happens around the wound because it's been sitting in moisture for too long. Yeah, and it's no good. So yeah, as you say, any of your high absorbent dressings you would use, and we've got some foam there to use if you need it, and you've only got one product to choose from, so it's not difficult. And what else have I asked? Tell me some of the things that can affect wound healing. Why might you be able to heal a wound?
Malnutrition,
Yep.
infection, patient compliance,
Yeah.
obesity, diabetes, medication downstairs, NSAIDs downstairs.
Yes.
The mobility.
Yeah. Definitely. All right, that's good. Is there anything else you want to ask before we finish off? Because we have gone to a bit there. That's good. 32 minutes. So what we're going to do now, we'll set up a trolley and we'll go and do an actual wound, right, just to put it all together. So I'm going to stop the recording now because privacy laws, I can't videotape William. But we are going to go through the process of setting up a trolley correctly. Okay. All right.